Among Israeli scholars, it's well known that many Bible scholars around the world are really not very strong in biblical Hebrew. But I'd like to tell you a story of a well published Hebrew scholar from a major secular university, not some small seminary, reading a paper at SBL. He was reading a paper on the meaning of the Hebrew verbal system and in biblical Hebrew, and his explanation didn't make sense to me in terms of how the actual verbal system works out in biblical texts. So, when at the end of his lecture, I asked him a practical question about how he would apply his theory of the verbal system to an actual test in the Hebrew Bible, he insulted me as if I didn't understand linguistics. Now, I'm a kid from Chicago, so that didn't really sit right with me, but I'm an academia now, so I let it go. Afterwards, I went up to him with my Bible in hand and asked him what he would do with some verses in 1 Samuel chapter 1, which is simple narrative Hebrew. And, any of my second year Hebrew students can read it without any problem. And so, what does he do? He looks down at the text, he looks up at me, he looks around at the crowd of people standing around him to ask more questions. He said, "Well, just a minute, I'll get to you in just a minute." And then he proceeded to deal with everybody else. First of all, if you like my videos, then please indicate that you like them and subscribe. And feel free to comment on whatever I say. If you like it, don't like it, agree, disagree, whatever. But at any rate, he answers everybody's questions and waits till there's nobody else around. Then he turns to me and says, "Now, what was your question?" And I said, "Here, 1 Samuel chapter 1. I would like to see how your theory of the verbal system works out in an actual text of the Hebrew Bible." And so he looks at it, he looks up at me again, and he says, "Well, you'll have to excuse me, but I really don't sight read Hebrew very well." And he pulls out his Kohlenberger interlinear Hebrew Aramaic Bible. And at that point, I was like, "You've absolutely got to be kidding. You are a well published Hebraist, and you cannot read biblical Hebrew." Sheesh. So, and then he gave me some, I don't know, explanation that, again, I was like, "What? You got to be kidding. That's not what that verb means here. It's past habitual." But at any rate, all right. My point is, don't be like that scholar. If you really want to learn biblical Hebrew, I have a course just for you. I have courses for people who just want to understand how the Hebrew language works, and then they can go on and use the better commentaries and understand what's going on. That is my Hebrew mini course. But if you want to really learn biblical Hebrew, so as to pick up a Hebrew Bible like I have right here, pick it up and read it without too much problem, at least for regular narrative passages, then then continue on beyond my mini course and take my Hebrew 1 and 2 classes, which are all available online. If you've already taken a year of Hebrew somewhere, then you can jump into one of my classes like Hebrew Readings in the Former Prophets, where we work verse by verse through the text, answering questions, but most importantly, learning to ask the right questions. All of this is available with a membership in ITSL, which stands for Institute for Torah and Semitic Languages. You can sign up below for a 2-week free trial. Afterwards, it's $25 a month because I would like for this to be available to the widest number of people possible. In addition to my Hebrew classes, you'll have access to my Biblical Aramaic class, my Arabic for Comparative Semitics class, my pre-recorded classes on all kinds of subjects on the Torah, and I have new and other parts of the Hebrew Bible. I have classes in the future coming up on Akkadian for Comparative Semitics, classical Ethiopic for Comparative Semitics, Ugaritic, and so on. But at any rate, Thank you for listening to this, and may Hashem richly bless your study of Biblical Hebrew.